What's going on YouTube? So Nissan has been on a bit of a redesign rampage, refreshing or fully redesigning many of their most important products. That of course includes their largest SUV, the Armada, which adds a new trim this year. So is this the family SUV you should put in your driveway? Let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so let's start things off with a quick spec dump. So under the hood of our Armada, we have a 3.5 liter twin turbocharged V6 engine making 425 horsepower. It's paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission, and our combined fuel economy with 4-wheel drive is 17 mpg.
Now the base price for the Armada this year is $58,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, later on, we're going to take it out for a spin and talk about the powertrain, get things like our sound level reading, and at the end, discuss resale and reliability.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood so that we can start out with the exterior, then move to the inside and talk about if anything's new along the way. So for the exterior, of course, Nissan just fully redesigned this Armada last year after many years, and they gave it a brand new design for the lineup. You can see it's got a very tough stance, but it also is very handsome. Depending on which trim level you choose, of course, you have different types of designs. So I want to go ahead and kind of jump into that because that really is our most significant 2026 change, is the fact there's a new trim at the very top of the lineup. It's the Nismo. That's right. There's now a Nismo Armada, and it has a very aggressive front end design with a huge grille, a lower body kit, and all types of things going on, which we'll kind of walk you through as we go through the rest of the vehicle. This is the Platinum Reserve, so this is kind of the more elegant and luxurious design that you can get. And let's talk about the lighting. Over here you'll find full LED headlights on all models. These are projector LEDs for the low and the high beam, and you also have a dual setup for your turn signal indicator and daytime running light. Also on the Platinum trim and above is where you get the LED fog lights. As we walk around to the back, of course, you'll see that redesigned rear end.
Yeah, I think it looks quite handsome. Now, let's break down some of the individual design elements. We have a spoiler up here at the top. A rear wiper is integrated underneath, and we have our full-length taillights across the back with our big Armada branding. Speaking of the taillights, let's see if all the elements are LED. Of course, this is a pretty expensive SUV, and as you can see, we have an LED brake light, LED reverse light, and LED amber turn signal indicator, and the higher-end versions get the full-length design across the back. Now, dropping down to the lower fascia, not a ton going on for the standard versions of the Armada. You can tow 8,500 pounds, but if you really want a spicy look, that new Armada Nismo will have a lower body kit back here, as well as a retuned exhaust system.
Moving on to the wheels, you have selections between 18 and 22-inch alloys. These are, of course, the 22-inch multi-spoke alloys on our top-end Platinum Reserve. Now, as far as that Nismo is concerned, there's some special enhancements in this area I want to mention. It will have performance brakes. It will also have performance all-season tires. And when we're talking about the air suspension, which, by the way, is available on several trims of the Armada, it's going to have that for a sport-tuned ride instead of just height adjustment like the other trim levels. Got a little bit of molding right there, and then as we come up here to our mirrors, high-end examples of this product will come fully loaded with things such as power folding and auto dimming.
Now at the side, this vehicle comes in at 209 inches in length, and just be aware you cannot get an extended wheelbase version of the Armada like you can on the Tahoe, for instance, with the Suburban. Now as far as design, we have a little chrome on our lower window surrounds, Armada branding right through there. We also have silver roof rails up here at the top, and you can get a two-tone roof on this model, which I think really spices up the overall look of it. Now, let's also talk about safety systems. As expected, you will have all of your active safety features as standard equipment on the Armada. That will even include things like adaptive cruise control. Now, additionally, as you move up the trim structure, you'll add things in like ProPilot 1.1, as well as available ProPilot 2.1, which will allow for some auto lane change and some hands-free driving. Just be aware it's a pretty expensive package on this model. But guys, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the interior luxury this Armada has. But first, If you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from sound level readings to cargo measurements, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's move to the inside. First, here's our key fob. It's the typical Nissan key fob. You have standard smart entry as well as remote start on all versions of the Armada. And then getting inside the vehicle, no sensor behind the handle, so just press that button there. That will unlock the door and fold the mirrors outward. Now, let's check out the inside of the Armada. As you can see, it is a fully redesigned model with the latest Nissan design and very luxurious at first glance into this Platinum Reserve. Now, getting into the seats, like always, as the first thing, we'll start with a leatherette seat on this model, and as you move up the trim structure, you move to a real leather, and then you have the quilted leather here on the Platinum Reserve. This is your highest end design, and as you can see, we've got the two-tone finish, which I think looks absolutely fantastic. Really very similar to what you get on the Infiniti QX80 model. And then if you get that new Nismo, that's also going to have a special sport design with some red interior accents. As far as the seat controls, we've got a lot of adjustments. You get the 4-way lumbar support on your upper end examples, and you'll notice this button right here. That is massagability. Finally, we've got memory seats over there on the door trim, and you have a fixed running board for most trims. There is no availability of a power deploying running board though, so keep that in mind compared to the competition. Let's climb on inside. Closing up the door, let's look around at the rest of the cabin materials. Nissan really did a fantastic job with this interior. We've got nice materials all through the armrest portion, a full leatherette covering with the color contrast finish. As we move to the upper dashboard, it continues to have the leatherette covering with stitching detail. That's all through the center section, again with that matching leather to the seat. And then down through here, we've got more of that leather material for your knee to rest against. Everything in here feels very nice and solid. It definitely has that, super nice Japanese build quality. And we'll fire it up now with the standard push button start. And now that's fired up, let's move into some individual details. We'll start with the gauge cluster area. So standard is a smaller 12.9-inch digital display. However, we have the larger 14-inch dual screen arrangement. And I'll talk about how these screens kind of interact with each other later on. But as you can see, it's almost a seamless display situation between the two 14-inch displays. You can reconfigure the gauge cluster with various kinds of information, including the map. Now, if you choose an upper end example, that will also unlock the head-up display you see there. And then as we pull back to the steering wheel, we have a really nice steering wheel. So this is certainly one of the nicest steering wheels in the entire segment, because if you get an upper end example, you get the really soft and supple leather, just exactly the same as the QX80, and you even have the leather covered airbag cover. It's power, tilt, and telescoping on all but the base model, and it is also heated on all but the base model. Now, let's take a look at interior storage. We'll open up our center console first, and as you can see, we've got some donuts preloaded inside. That's because we like to do the donut test at Car Confections. And compared to the competition, well, this is going to be a little smaller than the competition, actually, because today we only have 15 donuts inside, so it does pass the dozen donut test, but only is because compared to many of the rivals, you can fit actually 2 whole dozen. Up in front of that, we have 2 cup holders. You also have a wireless phone charging pad, a couple USB connections through there, and then Nissan includes a large center pass-through. Now the shifter itself is small and out of the way. It's just the push button style, finished in piano black. Press the D for drive, press again for manual mode, and you have paddle shifters on the steering wheel. Heading into reverse, here's our 360-degree camera system. This starts at the Platinum trim level, and as you can see, you've got a few different views you can choose between. Also, you can actually expand it out into this screen as well. Press the P there for park. Your trailer brake controller is located up there. And of course, you have your drive mode controller and four-wheel drive settings right in that same region. Now, in terms of our climate controls, we've got a 3-zone automatic climate control system. You can adjust up and down very easily with these physical knobs and buttons. We talked about this a little bit in our 7-day review with the Armada. It's just the fact that when we had the QX80 for a week, that one has the touch buttons and this one has the physical controls, which are actually easier to use than in the Infiniti. Also, we have heated and ventilated seats. That's available on most trim levels. And then right above that, we have our volume knob for the audio system. Nissan actually includes a clipped audio system on all but the base Armada. And let's go ahead and give that a sample. Yeah, so overall sound quality of this system is quite good. Really fills up the cabin nicely and has good definition. I think a little bit richer than even what you get in the Chevy Tahoe with its Bose sound system. Alright, so let's zero in now with our main display. I already kind of described a little bit about the sizing of this. It's 14 inches, and besides for that little crack there, it is directly connected to the gauge cluster. So inside of this infotainment system, first of all, you have a very bright and vivid display. It is, again, the same as you get in the QX80, so it has quite luxurious graphics and visuals. It also has Google built in, so you have things like Google Maps right here natively inside of the screen. If you don't want to use that, you have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto abilities as well. And you can make further adjustments to things like the climate settings inside of the screen itself. Rising above, we have an auto-dimming mirror. Also, we have a digital rear camera system, but that's just for your upper-end examples. And then as we slide back here, you got your HomeLink remotes actually built in up here, and I'll pull back the shade of the panoramic sunroof. So Nissan is including this on your Platinum trims as well as your Nismo as standard equipment. As you can see, you got the power sunshade, and the front panel does open up.
And let's talk about the rear seat. So perhaps this is the more important area about the Armada, is how is the rear and third row and cargo capacities? Well, we're about to dive into that. First, let's talk about the second row space. So when it comes to legroom, what we're sitting at is about 40 inches of legroom and about 38 inches of headroom. That does mean it is going to be shy of a few of its rivals when it comes to overall space. However, it's certainly still plenty of room for the average person. That's, of course, why we brought along the official Car Confections ruler. That's so you can see the realistic knee room. This seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8". I'm 5'9", and look at that. We have a solid 10 inches of knee room. That is really incredible. Also, my feet can't easily slide up underneath of the seats. And speaking of the seats, they do slide forward and back a good distance, as well as recline in addition to that. Now, no power abilities. That will be reserved for the luxury version, the QX80 exclusively. And of course, you can see that we have captain's chairs on this model. That's going to be standard on your Platinum trim levels. You can also option it on to some of your lower end examples. That will give you this armrest portion here. Just be aware, this is really hard. They have not updated this for 2026. We actually kind of complained about that last year. Hopefully, maybe next model year, they will update that. Now, when you have the captain's chairs, you'll have this center console with 2 cup holders inside, 2 USB ports, and a little storage cubby right there. Not done with features yet, because here in the center, we additionally have our own climate adjustments back here and heated back seats. So the heated back seats are actually included as well. So that's nice. No ventilated back seats, though. Down below, 2 USB-C ports and a 12-volt household outlet. Let's take a look at your door trim. One of the things that I see that's a little interesting that it does not have are rear window sunshades. Things like the Sequoia definitely have that. However, the door trim itself is super nice materials. All through the center section is leatherette, as well as your armrest portion, and you also have a bit of door storage. And let's go ahead and check out the third row itself. In order to get back here, it is quite simple. All you do is grab this little lever right here, and that's going to allow the seat to completely tilt up and out of the way. You would not have to remove a child seat, so certainly that is a pretty nice feature. Now, let's hop back here into the third row itself, and when it comes to this, I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised with this Armada. This new generation certainly has way more room than the previous model ever did. So we're sitting at about 33 inches of leg room. That is certainly going to be a good amount. It's way better than what you'd find in the Sequoia, for instance, and it's pretty close to something like a Tahoe. I brought the official Car Confections ruler back here as well, and even with the seat slid all the way back, we're still sitting at about 3.5 inches of additional knee room. My feet can partially slide up underneath of the seats, and really the thing that I want to point out is the thigh support. The thigh support is really excellent here in this Armada because we do have that independent rear suspension. That, of course, is much better than what the Sequoia delivers. There are 3 seats back here, which means overall seating capacity is 7 passengers as tested today. You can get up to 8 passengers. As far as features, over here on the side, we have a USB-C port, 2 cup holders, and we also have the ability to power recline this third row to give you a little bit extra comfort as well. Vents are coming out of the ceiling, so as far as how this rates on the third row rating scale, I'm going to say this is absolutely fit for a king. I just wish they would include features like a heated third row, but that is offered on the QX80. Let's walk up to the tailgate. Of course, you're going to have a power one. You can also get foot activation, but that is going to be included as you move up the trim structure in the Armada lineup. And let's talk about overall cargo capacity with this SUV. Now, that's, of course, very important for a model like this. And what we're sitting at are some pretty good numbers. 20 cubic feet behind the third row, 56 cubic feet behind the second row, and 97 cubic feet as a maximum. Those are going to be, like I said, pretty good figures. It is bigger than the Toyota Sequoia, for instance. However, it is still smaller than the Chevy Tahoe, so by about 20 cubic feet or so. Speaking of all the rivals that you may be cross-shopping this vehicle with, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've looked at all the full-size SUVs on the market and ranked them in the 10 most important categories to this shopper. Things like cargo capacity, interior luxury, technology, powertrain choices, value. All of that is detailed there for you, so if you want to make an informed buying decision, definitely check that out. Now, as far as features on this model, we do have a power folding third row. You'll notice the buttons over there for that here on the right side. That's going to be included on SL grades and above. And in order to fold it down, you just fold those headrests and then press these buttons. That's going to, with one touch, go ahead and fold the third row down. There's also buttons to electronically fold the second row down, so that's also very nice that you can get all of your maximum cargo capacity really with just 2 presses of the button. Now let's go ahead and get our cargo length, width, and height figures. It's a Car Confections review after all. Cargo length behind Drew's 5'8" driving position is 87 inches. From behind the second row with it slid all the way back, 48 inches. From behind the third row, about 16 inches. 51 inches wide, that's really good. And then as far as the height, that's also very good. About 33 inches in height, and certainly there is a little bit more room up there as well. Now, when it comes to the load-in height, there's these buttons right here that actually allow the air suspension to go ahead and lower down. So now that I've pressed that, let's see what our load-in height is. It's one of the benefits of the air suspension. And it's still about 36 inches, so it's certainly not, the lowest load-in height. That's something to keep in mind. Underneath the floor, there's a little bit of extra space, and if you're looking for a spare tire, you do have one underneath of the bumper. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2026 Nissan Armada. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also get things like our sound level reading. But first, let's go ahead and start with a hard acceleration so you can see what that is like.
$60 miles an hour. Very nice.
Quick.
Yes, this is quite the quick, big ol' SUV, that's for sure. So, what do we have under the hood? Well, we talked a little bit about it at the beginning. We've got a new 3.5-liter twin turbocharged V6 engine. It's got 425 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. Now, obviously, that's a big change from the previous generation, which was using a kind of old school V8 engine. This is going to bump up the power quite a lot compared to that. And I think if you owned the previous generation and you accelerate in this, you're going to be pretty impressed just how quickly, again, something so large can get up to 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. We spent a week with the previous gen, and we have also spent a week with this new one as well. I think this is a better experience, and trust me, I love the V8 growl, so I'm not a V8 hater, that's for sure. But this really, it pushes you back in your seat. 516 pound-feet of torque is really why it pushes you back in your seat so much, because that is a ton of torque. Now, for those of you that are really power hungry, you will like the new Nismo version that they're adding for 2026. That actually gets you some extra power in addition to some other driving elements. So what that's going to have is a specially tuned version of this engine that makes 460 horsepower, still the same 516 pound-feet of torque, but you're getting nearly 40 more horsepower out of this engine.
Yeah, I think even compared to something like the Tahoe, which you might be cross-shopping, this acceleration is quite impressive. Let's talk about the other element of the powertrain. It's got a 9-speed automatic transmission. So, of course, this nice and smooth transmission overall, I think it's a great partner with this powertrain. When you put your foot down, it does give you a nice, quick drop in gears to get you up to speed. And I know everyone likes to get on Nissan reviews and put, it's got a CVT. It does not have a CVT, okay?
Not on this one.
Not on this one. I feel like I've got to address that. Someone is going to say that, I'm sure.
As far as how power is routed to the ground, most versions actually come standard with two-wheel drive, so rear drive. However, the Nismo, as well as the Pro 4X, will come standard with four-wheel drive. So as far as pricing, the Nismo is actually the most expensive version in the lineup, but it does come standard with the four-wheel drive, which after you add that to the Platinum Reserve, they're roughly around the same price. All right, let's get our sound level reading going 55 miles per hour in the Armada. 57.8 decibels is what we are sitting at as our official sound level reading here in Kentucky. We don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to its rivals. We can find that at carconfections.com/sound level readings. And, compared to its rivals, I do want to point out that reading is going to be kind of a little bit on the louder end. You might be able to see outside. It is pretty windy today, so that is something to keep in mind. But we did do a test with the one that we lived with for a full week, and that was sitting as one of the quietest options in the segment. And I do believe that to be true for this Armada. It really feels exactly the same as the QX80 when it comes to sound insulation and a lot of the things in this cabin. So you really get a luxury experience when it comes to noise insulation in here, as well as things like ride quality. Ride quality is a very important aspect for this vehicle, and the air suspension does a fantastic job in this car. We were super impressed with it last year when we first drove it, when we lived with it for a week. It just really smooths out your ride. Compared to rivals like the Sequoia, this will have much better ride quality. Yes, the Tahoe also has an air suspension, so they are pretty similar, but a really good ride.
Yeah. But the interesting thing about this Armada, and what we did not expect when we first tested it out last year, was the handling of this product. So what is definitely not like the Tahoe is the fact that this has the good ride and also has pretty athletic handling for a large full-size SUV. Now, what we mean by that is just the fact that this feels smaller behind the wheel when you're driving it. So when you're navigating smaller roads, like here in this subdivision, the handling is quite good. The steering is good and responsive. And when you go around corners, the body roll is better maintained than other vehicles that it competes with.
And, of course, the Nismo is supposed to further improve on that of what we already really believe to be the best driving full-size SUV with sportier steering, sportier suspension elements as well. So we do look forward to getting behind the wheel of that and, seeing if that's actually a big improvement over what is already very exceptionally good.
Right. There's just not much going on in the space of sporty full-size SUVs. No. So the Nissan will kind of be inventing their own segment, you could say. But yeah, we look forward to actually trying that out and seeing how cool it is.
Let's talk quickly about fuel economy as well. So when it comes to fuel economy, we're sitting at 16, 19, 17 miles per gallon with four-wheel drive. The Pro 4X goes down to about 16 miles per gallon combined, and the Nismo is sitting pretty much at the exact same figure. The only thing I want to point out is that the Nismo does require premium fuel. So basically, in order to get that more power, you basically have to use the premium fuel. So it's kind of the QX80's tune, I guess, in a sense, for the Nismo model, so that might cost you a little bit more at the pump. It's worth noting the fuel economy is not as good as something like a hybridized Sequoia, and it's really not too much better than something like a V8 Tahoe either. All right, let's get into our slam dunk and airball, our favorite and least favorite element about the Armada. Drew, kick us off with the slam dunk for this vehicle.
We're going to say just kind of the overall package of this model and just how much they kind of pack in. They really nail a lot of elements, and especially if you get one of the upper end trims, you really just get the same experience as the QX80, and you're saving a lot of money over that.
Yeah, I think they kind of negated the need to get the QX80 because this is really good. Now, on the flip side, what's our airball? Our airball is going to be the price of this model. It's certainly, not what I'd call affordable. Really, none of the options in this segment are affordable. However, I really think that Nissan could have some more success if they priced it lower than the competition to kind of win over some of the customers that they lost over the years to Tahoe and some of those main rivals like Expedition. I think that they would really have a lot more success with that, as well as maybe add an extended wheelbase version to this vehicle, because the cargo capacity is not great behind the third row if you're routinely using that. And let's talk pricing for 2026. So prices will rise about $1,000 or a little bit more on certain trim levels for this model year. So that's something to keep in mind. We start at $58,000 this year for the SV. As you move up the trim structure, of course, that elevates quite a bit. This Platinum Reserve starts at about $77,500, and then the new Nismo is $79,530. Do keep in mind that comes standard with four-wheel drive. This one with four-wheel drive, this is the 26 Platinum Reserve, is $80,550. We also have quite a few, accessories through here. 2,190 destination, 85,500 is what we're looking at for this model. If you're curious as to where this vehicle is manufactured, it is manufactured in Japan. So that is a really nice benefit for this Armada, is that it is made in Japan. Now, if you're looking to buy a Armada or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that'll connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealer negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of all those things, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that in our video description, as well as a pinned comment down below. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, we took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Nissan Armada's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 50.56% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 16.4%. Now, it's worth noting those are pretty good resale value percentages. They're very much on par with industry average. However, I do want to point out, compared to some of its main competition, like the Toyota Sequoia, it will be significantly lower, as well as the Chevy Tahoe.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several reliability studies from trustworthy sources and combines them in a way that gives you the most holistic picture. In this regard, Nissan is rated just right at the overall industry average line for all vehicle makes.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, our reliability data, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is certainly an important decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. When it comes to your warranty, that's also important to consider. You have a 3-year 36,000-mile basic warranty, a 5-year 60,000-mile powertrain warranty. Nissan also newly includes 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. And guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth review of the 2026 Nissan Armada. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we really hope you did, we'd appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and I promise you won't want to miss out. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.